Hi, everybody, and welcome to Conductor. Really excited that you're joining us today for this amazing episode with Sierra. I just wanted to let everybody know that this episode was recorded on January 24th of 2022, and this is prior to Sierra's presentation of this data at ACDA Western, and also prior to her publication of an article that's coming out in the American Choral Directors Association Choral Journal. We're really excited to share this episode with you today, and thank you so much for listening to Conductor. Hi, and welcome to Conductor, where we are two sisters on a mission to amplify female voices on the podium. Join us as we interview leaders in the field of choral music, share resources, and build a community for current and future teacher conductors, all while exploring the gender divide.
I'm Kyra Starr.
And I'm McKenna Stenson.
And we are Conductor.
All right, welcome back to Conductor, the podcast. We are so excited today to be here with our guest, Sierra Farquhar-Wulff. I said it right, I think, Sierra. Am I good to go?
Yes, you
did. We did a practice beforehand because her name is awesome. So Sierra is joining us as a choral conducting master student at California State University, Fullerton, where she serves as a student assistant and a researcher specifically on gender discrimination in choral conducting. So obviously we were thrilled that she is here with us today to share some of her insights.
Absolutely. As soon as we found out about her research, we knew we needed to get her on the pod immediately and are just so thankful that she is here with us today. Sierra is a choir director based in Fullerton, California. She received her Bachelor of Music in Music Education from the Frost School of Music at the University of Miami in 2015. She interned with and served as assistant director for the Children's Voice Chorus of Miami. While studying, she was also honored with being the University of Miami nominee to the Rhodes Scholarship Competition, as well as the Fulbright Scholar Competition. In 2015, she graduated summa cum laude as the Outstanding Music Education Student for the Frost School of Music. Ms. Farquhar-Wulff then moved to Oregon and began her teaching career as an elementary general music teacher, choir director, and orchestra teacher in Salem.
You've had a really amazing journey, so I'm excited to read about your second adventure here. So in Oregon, she served on the Oregon Bach Festival conducting masterclass assistant in 2015 and the Oregon Institute assistant in 2016. Between 2016 and 2018, she also served as a middle school choir director in Gresham, Oregon. In addition to her work as a public school teacher, she directed adult and youth ensembles with Blueprint Ensemble and Performing Arts Initiative and piloted the youth choral program at Ethos Music Center.
And in 2018, she became the chief operating officer of Blueprint Ensemble Arts. She more than doubled the size of their youth choir, piloted 4 after-school music programs, and expanded the profile of the organization through public service, grant writing, and networking. In August of 2019, she moved to Orange County, where she is now a graduate student in the Choral Conducting Master's Program at Cal State Fullerton. She serves as the graduate assistant for CSUF Titan Voices and Concert Choir and is currently the assistant for the University Singers.
So Sierra, we're super excited to welcome you to the pod, and thanks for letting us read a little bit about you. And so we always start our podcast with a couple leading questions. And so after reading your bio, I'm super curious about your personal journey and your adventures all around the United States. So would you mind telling us a little bit about your upbringing and just how you came to choral music?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. I'm really excited. My upbringing, I grew up in Santa Cruz, California. Like the Bay Area, coastal little surf town in California. My parents, my dad's a carpenter, my mom is an archaeologist. So both pretty like passion-driven professions, I guess. So going through school, they kind of let me explore everything. And I started playing violin when I was really young, and that was originally my first instrument. But when I got to middle school, they didn't have an orchestra or a choir, even though I wanted to start singing. So I took up the flute. And then when I got to high school, do you play flute as well?
I was a flute player. I was in the marching band. Go Sierra.
Yeah. And then when I got to high school, they finally had a choir where I was going, but I still wanted to keep up my other things. So by my sophomore year, I was in all of the ensembles. Like junior year, I was emceeing the concert and like costume changing backstage. It was just my life. And I had an amazing choir director in high school that just completely inspired me. He actually teaches down here now. He's the one who recommended Cal State Fullerton to me. And something just like felt right about being in the choir room. I still played violin, but I realized that I did not want to spend my life in a practice room alone, practicing my violin for hours on end with no other human contact. So I was like, I think choir's the way to go. So I decided I wanted to be like my high school choir director, and when I got my undergrad, and kind of took off from there.
That's amazing. Many relatable things that you just talked about. And actually, as we were reading your bio, we were like, wow, we have a lot in common with Sierra. So we love to hear that. And amazing that you play 2 instruments as well. And yeah, I totally resonate with the like not wanting to be in a practice room by yourself all the time. There's something really beautiful about making music with other people and, you know, getting to focus on the community element. So totally agreed. So second question, what events or specific event was inspirational for you in choosing choral conducting as your career?
It's interesting. I don't feel like there was an event for me. I actually wrote about this for a few personal statements I've done. I never had what people would call like a defining moment. It was just always this path that I just was on. Which is kind of nice in a way. Like I remember sitting down with my parents and talking about college, and they were like, what are you going to go do? And I said, I'm going to teach music, duh. And they said, okay, great. I'm glad you know that. And I just kind of went with that. In terms of like, I thought I wanted to be like a K-12 or a high school choir director for a long time. I had a pretty rough year in 2018. I didn't get into grad school the first time I applied, which was heartbreaking. And then I had a series of health problems and just a lot of formative events that year that made me refocus my life and figure out what I wanted to do. I thought about a career switch, but I spent that whole year kind of processing my values, and I decided to reapply and ended up at Cal State Fullerton, which has kind of redefined me and how I'm looking at my career. And I want to be more of a professional or academic level conductor. So I guess that year and all of the things that I went through were kind of the catalyst to push me further in my career.
Sierra, that's huge. And we're super appreciative of you being vulnerable and sharing, about your story.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many people, I think even just us on the podcast already are like, oh my gosh, we resonate with so many of the things that you just said, and are just, so excited about your perseverance and that you are here. It's great to be on the other side. But, I remember finishing my first year of teaching, in the public schools and being like, okay, well, maybe I'll do personal training or become a nutritionist or, so it's, I think, important to talk about, the reality and just things in our life.
Those middle schoolers, I love them, but I also, oh man, they know which buttons to push, and you just sit and you're like, is this what I want to do? And then they sing beautifully and you're like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster for sure. So, you've answered a little bit of this already, but, along the way, who or what was most helpful and influential for you? And it can be from when, you talked a little bit about when you were younger and developing, but, is there a person that stands out for you as inspirational?
Yeah, I have a few kind of at every level of the game, and it's the people who are the most nurturing. I had some not professors, like when I was younger in high school, especially when I was playing violin, I feel like it's a little more like militant when you're playing instruments a little bit. And so I had some of those experiences, which made my experiences with those more nurturing figures a lot more meaningful. So my violin teacher growing up, she knew exactly which way to push me and which buttons to press without squashing my confidence. But then I really think my high school choir director, Drew Lewis, I guess I'm going to name drop him. Don't know if he's going to listen to this. He was a younger choir director when he started at my school. I think he started at my school like the year before I started. And he really held us to a high standard, but also offered a really compassionate ear for his students and just nurtured us in a really good way. And he prepared me really well for college. He was my AP music teacher as well, but he didn't teach to the test. He taught to what would actually prepare me for college. Which
amazing.
Was
what
great. I know. I got to college and I was able to place out of some of those theory classes because he knew what they were going to look at for that. So he prepared me really well. And then there's a husband and wife duo in my undergrad, Dr. Karen Kennedy and Dr. Overland, who were phenomenal. She was the choir director at University of Miami, and he was one of the music ed professors. And they just taught so many real world skills that have lasted me through my whole career. And of course, working under Karen Kennedy's baton, just her name alone gets you places, which you have to get that interview with her name and then you have to keep going. But working with her was phenomenal. And everyone who's worked with her really misses her at this point. And then,
it sounds like you've got, some amazing mentors, and if you're listening, thank you. So just a shout out to everyone, which is fantastic. So there's, you reached out to me on Facebook, which was really cool, just saying, hey, I'm really excited about the podcast. And you shared a little bit about your research. And I, immediately shot a text to my sister and I was like, oh my gosh, you won't believe who reached out.
Which is amazing, Sierra, because I saw your presentation listed for the Western ACDA conference, which I'll be going to and plan to attend your session. Super excited to meet you in person. But I was like, amazing. This is absolutely perfect. And when we thought about starting the podcast, I was like, well, I'm doing a little bit of preliminary research on things and seems like you're the expert at this point, and there's not a ton else out there.
There's not.
I'm so excited to hear from you. And just, to start off, what inspired your research into gender discrimination within choral conducting?
Yeah, it was another one of those weird, my advisor, Dr. Eistad, asks me, what are you going to do for your master's paper? And it just was automatically coming out. I was like, I'm going to look at women in the choral conducting field. And I hadn't quite formulated that I wanted to do discrimination. I kind of wanted to look at the data first, but I was really feeling that I was having these experiences in my professional life that made me question why I was being treated the way I was, or what opportunities I was being given. But they were so subtle that I wanted to know if I was imagining them. And I'm like, I'm feeling like there are certain things that are happening to me that I don't know if they're true, and I want to get some data to back that up. And so I just started digging, and turns out they're probably true, which is unfortunate, but it's also nice to reassure myself that I have the skills and the abilities that I think I do, and I can continue pushing forward knowing that.
We had one of my professors on for our last episode, and she was describing just these subtle microaggressions that she has experienced in her lifetime of just being in this field. And she was like, I can't even think of a specific one, but just the amount that I have experienced truly weighs on me. And I know that my male colleagues have not experienced these things. So we hear you and we see you and we relate. And yeah, I mean, I'm just so excited that you started this and that we're able to have you here as a resource.
Yeah.
And so I know First off, everyone should go, if you're going to Western ACDA, go to Sierra session. And this may air after it's already happened. And in that case, I know it was fantastic. And I can't wait for the one at National. So that's going to be awesome. Putting that out there in the future for you.
Yeah.
But, we recognize you can't reveal everything about your study and that the study is going to be ongoing, that there's more to be uncovered here. But can you share a little bit about the current research and, even a little bit maybe about what you're going to be presenting at Western ACDA and anything that you can give to us today to, get this information out there for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, the only thing I can't share at the moment is details of the interviews that I did, because I need to run those by my interviewees and all of that. It's still actually in my paper I'm sending back and forth to my editors. It's still all anonymous. They don't even know who all the people are. But I'm very happy to share the data that I found. I've got like my little cheat sheet over here. So
amazing.
I'm looking away from you guys. Yeah. So I started by looking at the national organizations and trying to gather data there. So I went to ACDA, Chorus America, the National Association for Schools of Music, and College Music Society. And then later I found the National Collegiate Choral Organization. I think I got
NCCO.
All of those. So many. And I found that Chorus America has the most widespread surveys available. You still have to be a member to access all of their data, but that was fine. It's a very accessible membership. So that was good. The College Music Society, I found through the book Wisdom, Wit, and Will. I don't know if either of you have read that book, but it's phenomenal.
Who's the author?
It's a collection of stories. I think Joan Conlin is the headliner on that. The chapter by Sharon Hansen has a bunch of data from the College Music Society outlining the number of women in doctoral and master's granting institutions for choral conducting. So I decided to take that, and then also her data that she had from CMS on the number of men versus women in specific rankings. So professor, associate professor, assistant professor. And I approached her, and she actually gave me her original data set so I could see which I felt honored, honestly.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's from 2006, 2007. And so I took her original data set and I took all of the colleges that she had categorized, and I went and found out who is there now, and I did an analysis. So yeah, I broke those down for Sharon Hansen's data. And then I also was interested in the number of men versus women just in general, academic music, because I wanted to know how this varied between choral music and regular academic music. And then the National Collegiate Choral Organization actually has a really similar breakdown that Chorus America has, just of the number of respondents they had to a survey, broken down by gender identity. And I do have to say props to NCCO, because they broke it down far further than most people did beyond the gender binary, which I didn't really see anywhere else. I think CMS recently, I will try and not use abbreviations. The College Music Society has started using more than just male, female, but that is definitely lacking in our research. So basically, according to the College Music Society, from 2006 to 2020, the number of female conductors at the collegiate level dropped by 7%.
Okay, I need you to say it again.
Let's repeat that
again.
So from 2006 to 2020, the number of women conductors at the collegiate level dropped by 7.05%, according to the College Music Society databases. That's their just straight up data. That's not extrapolated from anything else. It's just, they sent that to me.
And just for clarification, Sierra, was the percentage, pretty high in 2006?
I can tell you what this is. So in 2006, the number of women conductors at the collegiate level was 32.95%. And in 2020, it was 25.9%.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, if you want to break that down even further, according to Sharon Hansen's data, which is extrapolated from CMS, again, she took CMS's data, she took College Music Society's data in 2006 and gave me her data set so that I could compare. So at the doctorate level, so doctorate granting institutions, in 2006, there were 21.7% were women, and that did increase to 28.3 most recently. And master's granting institutions is actually lower. The number of women there is 15.9% and has increased to 20.8%.
That is fascinating.
It's interesting looking at the different ways you break that down, because there's not that many doctoral and master's granting institutions, like in the grand scheme of things. So, but those are the most coveted positions in our field. And and so that's just so low. so low.
And interesting that that it's lower at the master's. I find that to be very intriguing.
Well, Sierra, you've just shared some pretty incredible data with us. Incredible in not the traditional sense, I guess, but just incredibly humbling and important for us to hear. So I just wanted to know, for our perspective, for the broader listener, do you know the number of doctoral granting institutions that are out there right now for DMA programs?
Yeah, so the combination of master's and doctoral, some of them grant both, but it's a total of 148 institutions. So a pretty big sample size.
Okay, great. Oh, wow. So that's a kind of maybe the big picture data. Is there more data that you want to share as we're moving into?
Yeah, absolutely. Chorus America's data was really interesting to go through. They have they did surveys in 2005 and 2017, so pretty comparable to the CMS pretty comparable to the College Music Society data there. That's 2006 to 2020. And breaking down the Chorus America data, they showed that the number of women respondents to their surveys increased by 2.8%. But when you break it down further, the actual number of ensembles led by women decreased by 5%. So it's almost a little bit of a wash. So they had more females responding, but fewer ensembles directed by women.
So what do you take from that data?
I take from that data that we have not made any progress, which is really shocking. I thought that post Me Too movement, post so many things in our world, and I feel like the choral world is supposed to be this, I don't know, artistic friendly environment, and it's not. I have two more things for you.
Yeah, keep going.
I probably have more things, but I also took the Chorus America database. I have a database of all member organizations. And so I took that database and I narrowed it down by choirs that have greater than $1 million budget. And then I also took out random, there's choral conglomerates kind of that are less choirs and more institutions. And I found that there were 35 of them that encompass over $1 million budgets of professional, volunteer, and children's choirs. Overall, 80% of those were directed by men and 20% by women. Of those 35 choirs, 12 of them are children's ensembles, and 58.3 of those are directed by men, which actually goes against a lot of the other data I have, which shows that generally women far outnumber men in direction of children's choirs.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
even at these upper levels of the children's choirs, you still have more men. So that was interesting to me. And then the remaining 23 adult volunteer and professional ensembles, 91% of them were directed by men.
91?
91.
And then you get to the top 8 of the ensembles that are fully professional, and 100% of them are directed by men.
Okay, one more time. The top 8 professional ensembles with over $1 million budget are all directed by men.
As of the time that I looked at their database.
Yes. Which was when, Sierra? Do you remember when that was?
Let me look at my paper. It was in the past 6 months.
Okay, so very recently.
Very recently, yeah.
Yep.
And then this one's also really sad. According to Chorus America, women are making 74 cents on the dollar compared to men, which is 8% worse than the U.S. economy.
I was going to say that's worse than the national average, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we need to do better.
Wow. Okay. Well, my next question for you was going to be, what was surprising about your study? As we kind of were talking earlier off the record, like, I'm not sure that any of this data necessarily, like, it was particularly surprising because we've very much seen this, or at least I can't speak for you, Sierra, but I feel like I've looked around the room and been the only woman. So like, I'm not exactly surprised, but, you know, was there any data that really just jumped out to you? And if not, maybe somewhat related, were there any resources that you found that you like thought were particularly helpful and maybe would be helpful to people like us who we discuss, like, perhaps there aren't that many resources out there. So are there any out there that you'd like to name?
Yeah, definitely. The thing that jumped out to me in all of this data, including the pay gap, is that pretty much nothing has changed in the past 15 years, including that pay gap has not moved a single percent since 2005.
Despite massive inflation going on. Like, just, that's incredible.
It's just consistent. Women are making 74% of what men are making in our profession. Granted, I don't know how that's changed since 2017, but looking at this data, the margins just have not moved all that much. And so I'm not going to say like one set of data is more surprising to me. It's more the overall picture and that it hasn't improved. I actually, and that looking at the Chorus America database was also pretty interesting to me because I could pick out exactly, like, there are top ensembles in the country. That's practically a ranking there. If they have over $1 million budget, they're one of the most important ensembles in this country. And it's just really discouraging as a woman trying to reach that level to see that glass ceiling is still there.
And to not see. That's one of the things that we're hoping to promote with the podcast. Representation matters. And when young people see someone like them achieving one of these major goals, directing one of these top 8 choirs, it all of a sudden opens the door for somebody maybe not like Sierra, who didn't know that they wanted to be, a choir director or, a musician or a teacher of music from the time that they were, so young. So I think that what you just said is like an all call for everybody who's listening. It hasn't changed, so let's change it. And that comes from more than us listening to a podcast, right? But because there are so many institutional changes that need to take place. But I think it's also about knowing this knowledge, being empowered. Like you said, there haven't been studies where we could go back and say, look at this data. Look at this data. This hasn't changed. And so I want you to know, as someone who is embarking into the job market here shortly, I'm so grateful for you for taking this on, because you are going to change the field with this information.
I hope so. And I hope I'm not jumping the gun on any of your questions, but I've had conversations with fellow women choral conductors, not even as a part of my research, but just in casual conversation, where those people started out where I am really passionate about changing the world and about breaking that glass ceiling, but the profession beats them down.
Yep.
Because there's a lot more in the way of that success as a woman. Like the elephant in the room all the time is, when are you going to have a baby? And It's like, I will have a baby when you can provide me with that support and I can still go to work, or I can support my family and still have a job to come back to.
Or I can go back to school and still have a child because there are systems in place for care, or all of those different types of things. Because let's face it, when you look at higher ed and you think about going back to get, a master's degree or a doctoral degree, you look online and you look on Instagram, and so many people in that age bracket between the 25, 35 are starting families. And that's the time to go back to school. Because if you go too late, then you're aged out. And that's a thing that we've seen, as well. I think probably all of us, that there is also age discrimination. So there's so many things at play.
I talk about a return on investment when it comes to how old you are in our field. And when you decide to go on, you're investing in your future by going to a doctoral program, but that return on your investment greatly diminishes the longer you wait. That's just how it works.
Correct. Oh, Sierra.
Wow.
So this kind of is a good segue into our next question. But how do you hope this research will impact our field? And what are some of the next steps that you see for this data?
I hope that it will make people angry, which I'm already doing, which I love. One of my committee members read through all this, and I think she was a little skeptical of my research at first. And by the end of our thing, or by the end of her editing, she was like, "I'm mad. This is not okay." And I'm just mad. And that's the reaction I want, because I think that anger is what gets us places.
I want to unpack that for a second too, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
This was a female professor doubting this data.
No, I don't think she was. It was more like at the beginning, before she saw my data, she was like, kind of where I was before of, I know things have been done to me, but is this a pattern? And so it was more of a I don't know. And
is this valid? Is this true?
Yeah. And yeah.
But I think that's important for us just to think through too, because like you said, I feel this way, or I've experienced this thing. And then on the other side is like, well, hasn't everybody?
Yeah.
Or is this really a big deal? And I think the data says it's a massive deal. It is. The field is in a stalemate.
Yeah.
Without
and not only the data, but just these conversations are revealing so much in and of themselves. You are our second interview, Sierra, and already we've talked to two people and heard about their experiences. And as you were talking and bringing up the specific data, it just made me think, I have never had a female choral director in a secondary institution. From the time I entered middle school, I've only had men. And then going to teach in a high school and seeing the direct impact on me, yes, as an amazing teacher, which not to toot my own horn, but I love it and I'm passionate about it. But also as a woman, and then seeing the direct impact of lifting up those female students that I had and having them choose to go into music and say, wow, I've never felt this way before. You help us feel so powerful when we're singing. I mean, I still have yet to experience that in an ensemble setting, despite the fact that I'm striving for it. So I just think continuing to do exactly what you've done and put pen to paper and say, this is exactly what's happening. And not only do I have the numbers, I have the experiences that have been shared with me from all of these women. And that is so powerful.
I wish I could, I can share some about my interviews. I can't like share specifics, but that's really the most powerful part of my paper when I eventually get to put it out there is their stories.
Yeah.
Because so many of them have that same experience of I've never gotten to work with another woman. And that is really impactful because a lot of them say like going through elementary, middle, high school, it's not as big of a deal. Like you're still at that point where you think you can do anything. And then you get into college and you slowly start to realize that the people in front of you don't mirror your experiences. And that's really hard. And also it colors what you're learning about too, because a lot of those people aren't going to put women into their curriculum. Not all of them, but
right.
And they can be fantastic teachers. You know, I've had wonderful male mentors.
Oh yeah.
Pretty much my only mentors, right? Aside, although I was thinking too, like, I'm so lucky to have had my sister and my mom in this journey with me. And those have been two people that I've seen directly pursuing, you know, higher education and going back to school and being a female in this profession and succeeding despite the odds, literally. But, you know, like even the other day at an audition, an adult man called me mommy.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, an adult man.
In what context is that?
Well, the context did not make it any better. But yeah, essentially I, you know, went to this audition to be a conductor of this ensemble. And 3 minutes before my audition was supposed to start, I was standing on the podium, you know, just getting centered, making sure my music was all set. And yeah, this probably 50-year-old man came up to me and he was holding a mask in a plastic bag and said, "Mommy, will you open it?" And handed me the mask.
No.
Yep.
And that's 3 minutes before you're about to start, you know, essentially your interview for a job to try and, you know, continue your elevation in the field. And what a way to begin.
What a way to start. And obviously, like, I just did what I think any of us do in that position and name a time that something similar has happened to you. And I'm sure we all have them, but you know, I just did it. I handed it back, and then I did the audition and I was like, well, don't think about that. Like, forge ahead. But then at the end, weird. It was incredibly weird. And it would not have happened if I had been a man. Like, that's very obvious. But then as soon as it was done, I called my sister, you know, and just not that should ever be the case. You shouldn't need to have that support there, but having her there and having someone who has, you know, experienced similar but different, you know, awful things, it's comforting. And it's also like, hey, can we talk about this? And like, how did you handle that when that happened to you? I mean, it's just beyond valuable to be able to have that conversation. And when there isn't anyone, like you were saying, that looks like you, how do you have that conversation?
Isn't it interesting though, how, and I see this happen to myself and my fellow women friends in everyday life, but how those experiences happen and you almost can't speak up for yourself.
Correct. Yes.
And that's one, a logistical thing, because you're in the middle of an audition, like you can't speak up for yourself, but two, it's just ingrained in us. I remember a male colleague of mine physically pushed me off the podium once when he wasn't happy with how I was handling something.
Wow.
And I like looked at the choir and just like froze and just kept going. And I should have, and honestly, our relationship at that time, I should have been able to say, hey, that wasn't okay. And I just couldn't do it. And it's so interesting coming to Fullerton because it's a different, I really appreciate the dynamic that I have here. Like when Dr. Eistad works with us, he asks permission to like do anything. He's like, we need to work on something with your hand. May I touch your hand? And he asks that permission because he understands that as a woman, like we get a lot of unwanted physical attention. And the fact that that happens in our professional lives is just insane.
And it should be a no-brainer for all, regardless of orientation. But I think Kyra and I and everyone in the field can say, oh yeah, well then that happened that time and that happened. I mean, like, you can just start to list them off and like, oh yeah, my friend called me about that one. And so, we've taken taken many turns, but something that you said reminded me of something that I was talking about with one of my UNT professors, and I'm really excited. They're actually going to be on the podcast later this season talking about the dynamic of the opportunity to work with another female in the workplace at the higher ed level. So, but what she and I were talking about was, there has been some data prior, in the studies that you've mentioned, and, thankfully more coming out from you. And in academia, the research and the data is so important. That's how a lot of people view a benchmark that we can use to create progress. But the reality is that the stories that we're talking about and the stories that you mentioned in the interview, that's the connection and I think the missing link in the ability, I think, to progress and just taking away any sort of taboo about talking about this on a public platform and making it okay to say, like you said, or wanted to say to your colleague, like, hey, that wasn't okay to push me off the podium. And we see it all the time. And so just really appreciative of, what you've brought. We have one more question. Kyra, this is your final one. Do you want to go for it?
Yeah. So again, so happy to have you on here and like just electrifying to hear about everything you've discovered and just to kind of unpack things with you tonight. But a last question is, how can we use our platform, this podcast, and how can listeners begin to change the continuous gender discrimination in the choral conducting community? And obviously that is a big question. We don't expect you to be Wonder Woman in here with all the answers, Sierra, but any wisdom that you can offer there.
Yeah. I think this speaks to the end of your question that I forgot to answer because we went on a tangent.
A great tangent.
Absolutely.
But I think that the best thing we can do is call on the national organizations and the people in power to do better, which the only way we're going to do that is through asking them to do better. One big thing I noticed is certain organizations don't make public their data on gender or race. And that's really difficult. And I think we need to ask them all to do that. I think that's part of being transparent. Some really great solutions that I got out of my interviews were having more women-led discussions at our national conferences.
Absolutely.
It'd just be nice to get into the meat of the issue and listen to women talk about what they need in order for this to be better. And things like that include putting together more diverse hiring committees, making sure that those hiring committees are super diverse. I've got so many things running through my head.
Just to dovetail off of what you said about the, the sessions, there has been a session that's floated around a little bit called, I think they called it Mama Maestras. I don't know if you
Kate
right?
Longo. Yes. I love Kate. I literally was on the phone with her 3 days ago.
And so
amazing.
I can't tell you, I was at one of the conferences where they were presenting with my mom, and at that point I knew I was auditioning for DMA programs, and my mom was like, McKenna, you got to go to this. And I was like, I don't know, Mom. I don't know. I felt honestly even like scared to go into the room because it felt so like, can we talk about this? And I don't think of myself as a fearful person. And so I was like, whoa, like there's some internal angst that needs to get like worked out here, and I need to figure this out. And I ended up going to the session, and there were like 10 of us there. And it was the most powerful ACDA session I have ever been to. And it was real. Yeah. And so I think they're happening. It's just making more room. Like it was in a small room. It was off to the side.
Were there any men there?
There was one man there.
Because they need to know what we go through.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, I'm so appreciative of, you know, I've been lucky in that I have had some really incredible female mentors at the higher ed level. You know, I think more than many. And when I talked to one of them about going back to school, and we get into this a little bit in other episodes on the podcast, but she was like, okay, McKenna, like, I didn't take maternity leave with my first child. And, you know, there are just things you have to do. Like there are like natural occurrences going on here. Like when you have 15 minutes at your honor choir, you aren't studying your score. You need to go pump in the closet, or you need to go do whatever it is that you need to take care of. You need to bring ice. Can you pay to bring a babysitter with you? Because there's a certain point where you can't be away from your child. And I think that barrier you mentioned a little bit earlier, no one had ever talked to me about that. Not once.
Yeah.
And we have to.
Yeah.
And as somebody who is a woman who's planned a district honor choir, who's planned an all-state honor choir, I was like, wow, I wish I had known. And I wish I could have done better, like for the people that we were bringing in. And now I hope people hear this and can do better. And to be considerate. At the high school I worked at, there wouldn't have even been a room if I had a baby to go and pump. Yeah. I would have had to go into the storage closet where the uniforms were kept.
Yeah.
Because it's the only room without windows, which is lucky in a lot of other ways. I understand that. But, you know, just real things, so many real things.
Yeah.
So sorry again for the like 50th tangent, but
it's so important. There's so many things that like, yeah, we just need to talk about things, which is why I'm really excited about this podcast, because we need to talk about it. It needs to not be taboo. Like I almost feel bad putting my paper out there sometimes, because there are certain times in there where I call out big national organizations and ask them to do better. And that means I don't know if I will get published on certain platforms. And that's difficult because we need to be able to say the hard things and get them done. But you have to censor yourself a lot as a woman all the time. So this is great. I'm so happy about this. I'm still censoring myself a little bit because I have to, but yeah, it would be great if people just talked about these things on a national level and published the dang data. Like, just give us the data. The fact that this isn't like the state of our organization, like, and National Collegiate Choral Organization, that's where their data came from. It's like the state of our organization. Same with Chorus America. They're doing a great job. That's what we need from everyone yearly. Published.
And you'll notice that you didn't say in there American Choral Directors Association.
No.
And I just feel like because we're having this hard conversation, you know, no one can see this because we're on Zoom, but here's the latest choral journal on my desk. That's what I get every month. And so if we're, you know, going to be looking to leaders in the field, let's hope that your data can be, you know, pushed out on other platforms than just the two, because you've mentioned two a lot. It would be great to just, and there are so many amazing things that ACDA does, and the Choral Journal has so many wonderful resources. How cool if they also had this element available.
I did think it was really interesting. Were either of you on the conversation on the Women Choral Directors page? I think we talked about
so many.
Both of us.
I thought like I said, I've been sitting with this data for so long that when that came out and they were putting the numbers, I looked at it and I was like, nope, that's right. that is actually representative of what we have nationally. And it was clear to me that people didn't realize that. Yeah. They thought that ACDA was picking and choosing men over women. And I'm like, they're not. They're actually pretty in line with what I'm finding, which doesn't make it better, but it's just a fact that we all need to work together from all these different angles to make this better. And a lot of this comes down to academia as well. And changing that system is much harder.
Yes.
You should definitely highly recommend Wisdom, Wit, and Will.
Yeah.
I've got chapter on getting circled. Tenure.
Yeah. We'll certainly put it on our Instagram as well, so people can check it out, and we will read it, and maybe we'll start a book club. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. I would join that book club. It's so good.
All right. So Sierra, just absolutely have loved our conversation so far. I don't know. We so appreciate your honesty, your vulnerability, your truth telling, even talking about just having to make some of these sacrifices, knowing that you're essentially falling on the sword for women like us who are looking to you to do this. I mean, just on behalf of all of the women in this field, thank you. And I hope that you become wildly published and just incredibly, I just hope everyone is citing you.
And I think you've said a couple times, there have been so many amazing male mentors who've lifted you up and supported you.
Oh yeah.
It is also a reminder to all the men in our field that this is something that is happening. And so as, people are listening, we hope men, women, non-binary, everybody should tune in here, because this is not unique just to us, but we want to, again, say thank you. And also just to say everyone can do some self-reflecting, including us, always, to just be thinking.
On that note too, I was talking with another colleague of mine this is how it is for women in general. I haven't even begun to dissect the information on people of color.
Yep.
Yep. Women of color in our fields.
Correct.
I would be happy. I will collaborate with someone on that if they want to do that. But I think it would be nice to highlight all of the disparities.
Absolutely.
This is just the one we happen to be focusing on.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Wow. Okay. Yes. I'm should I collaborate with you, Sierra? Maybe I'm ready.
Let's go.
Oh, that's amazing. And yes, so true. One thing when we started this podcast, we really wanted to be intersectional feminists. This is a problem in our field. We have seen it. We've experienced it on a daily basis, but we are also two white women who come from a middle-class background. We have a lot of inherent privilege. So you're so right. I mean, there's a lot more data to be uncovered, and we recognize that we're lifted up in a way that a lot of people are not, simply by just luck of birth. So yes, all of the things. All right. Well, since we've now just taken a dive into the deep end and really gotten into some hard truths, we are going to end on a little bit of a lighter note and give you our Fast Five, which is the same 5 questions we ask all of our wonderful guests every time they come on. And don't think too hard about your answer. Whatever comes out, we love.
Okay.
All right. So the first question is, what is your favorite current choral octavo or composer?
Oh, I hate this question.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I really hate this question. My favorite choral octavo.
Just right now.
No.
It doesn't have to be overall.
And it doesn't need
something.
to be of all time.
I've taken such a break off. What was I even working on? I've been working on Moira Smiley's Silver Lake. Yeah.
We love Moira Smiley. Have you met her, Sierra?
I have not. And Dr. I is always like, oh, you'll have to meet her sometime. And I'm like, please.
She is wonderful. We met her at an ACDA conference. That was in 2020. That was right before the world shut down. That was March of 2020.
There you go.
Yeah, Moira, if you're listening, we have a picture with you because you said we kind of all looked alike. So we took a photo and we cherish it. So
yeah, she's said we could be sisters, and we're excited to hopefully open up the podcast to some female composers as well. So come on over.
Okay, so our second Fast Five. What is one misconception about you?
I have resting bitch face. It's a problem. And honestly, my first impression is usually that I'm like really intense and angry. And I'm not.
And you're so not. You're so the opposite of that.
But that's always the first impression. So I always feel like that's the misconception.
Great answer. Great answer. We all have RBF on occasion.
Oh,
so.
yeah.
All right. Number 3. What is one word to describe you on the podium?
Direct.
Yes, Sierra.
Nice.
You know what's funny about this one? I don't know if you want tangents at all.
Go.
Totally.
I would never use that to describe myself, but I was like at a function with my advisor and some other friends, and he was like, this person is quiet and direct, kind of like you, Sierra. And I looked at him, I was like, no one has ever described me as quiet. But thank you. And so now I'm like embracing that.
I love that.
I love it. Direct is great.
Yeah.
And also just like sometimes someone else putting the mirror helps you see what's really going on. And that's also the power of grad school, like a chance to do some more internal focus. Crazy.
I turned to my colleagues and I was like, I'm not quietly direct. And they're like, yeah, you are.
And you were like,
okay,
cool, good to know.
Okay.
Right.
So this one's really, really fun. We'd love for you to share a favorite choral memory, something that, was either really musically powerful, it's whatever comes to mind. Favorite memory.
In high school, we did a New York trip like a lot of choirs do, and we were singing the octavo Sing Me to Heaven, and we sang that in the 9/11 memorial. And people just sobbed. And it was so powerful to see how, like, as high schoolers, our music could impact that many people. That one's always stuck with me.
That's beautiful.
And on a completely opposite note, our 5th question is, what is a choral blooper that you have had? This could just be like an embarrassing moment that has happened to you while teaching or conducting or doing warm-ups, or I don't know, some musical mistake. What, you look like you have one in mind.
Oh, I have a good one. I've got a really good one. It was my second year of teaching. Does it have to be musical, or can it just be like?
Nope, okay. Totally not.
My second year of teaching middle school, I was directing my winter concert, and I had this long black dress and a big red scarf that I was wearing. And it turns out I'd worn this dress so many times that when I stood in the light, you could see my butt. But so I'm up there and I like put all my music up there, and then I walk off stage to go finish preparing myself, and 2 of my 8th grader girls come pull me aside, like, Miss Farquhar, we can see your butt. I was like, oh no. And I was mortified, absolutely mortified, but they were so sweet. They like took my scarf and like made it a wrap around my hip, and were like helping me get all fashionable. And my huge, like, I swear 6'5" big macho bald principal comes over. He's like, what's taking so long? I thought we were supposed to start. I'm like, you can see my butt.
Yeah, like, we're gonna have to hold.
He's like, wait, I don't think I want to be involved in this. But it was really sweet. I was talking to my mom about it, and she was like, if this was your first year teaching there, they probably would have let you just direct with your butt hanging out. Like, that says a lot about the fact that they had your back. Yeah.
100%.
I love that so much. I mean,
it was great.
God bless 8th grade girls. Honestly, they keep the world turning in so many ways.
Yeah.
They're looking out for us. We need them.
They are. They know.
They do know.
Oh my gosh. Well, Sierra, this has been just, a distinct pleasure to have you on the pod. And We're really hopeful for you and for your research, and we wish you the best of luck as you go to present at the ACDA Western Regional Conference. So check out Sierra, and if you missed it, check out her research that is soon to be published. So we're really
fingers
happy.
Crossed.
Fingers crossed.
It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
Thank you so much.
Just a quick shout out, if you haven't seen our social media, check us out. We are at conduct.her.pod on Instagram and conduct.her on Facebook. And we're hoping to get some Spotify resources of all the things our awesome guests are sharing with us, and post also maybe a book list, because we're getting some really great information. So thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks so much for listening.
This has been
Conductor.